So, my presentation today is on cancer vaccines. If we go on to the next page. So basically, what are cancer vaccines? So cancer vaccines are a form of immunotherapy which can help the immune system to tell, it's kind of like a signal for the immune system to tell what actually cancer cells look like so that it can recognize it and partake in its action to either suppress it or eliminate it. So what differentiates cancer vaccines from regular traditional vaccines is that the cancer vaccines are treating diseases or tumors that are already present in the body. So that's a way to let the immune system kind of know that there's a foreign cell present in your system and you have to eliminate that. So that's how they differentiate from preventive vaccines, which are kind of preventive in their way that they kind of alert the body before the virus comes in. So some cancer treatment vaccines are made up of cancer cells, part of cells, or they can be made from antigens, which are basically proteins from the one's body. They can also be combined with substances called adjuvants, which are usually aluminum hydroxide, aluminum phosphate, aluminum potassium sulfate, which kind of provides an additive effect to the immune system response. So if we go on to the next slide, these are certain types of cancer vaccines. So they're basically mainly like two types, one being the preventive vaccines and the other being a therapeutic one. So this is preventive vaccine, what I mentioned earlier. This is more of a traditional vaccine. So how it works is that it gives from three things. The first, it provides primary prevention in healthy individuals which are at risk of developing cancer. The second is the secondary prevention for individuals with chronic inflammatory diseases that can lead to cancer or that exhibit early pre-malignant conditions. So the third way is that it provides tertiary prevention in patients that have been cured from certain cancers, but are at high risk of remission so that the second malignancy may occur. So the main concept of this type of vaccine is to prevent a disease that has not happened yet. So it targets the viruses, the remaining viruses that are in the body system, so that can help alert the immune system that it might be in danger, basically, in simple words. So these type of vaccines are mainly used for infections, for cancers that are caused by infections such as lung cancer or no, I'm sorry, I'm going on the wrong path over here. These are vaccines only for to treat cancers that are caused by certain infections, but they can't treat cancers that are more invasive, such as lung, prostate, or breast cancers, because they're not caused by infections. So if you go on to the next slide. So the two main vaccines that can be categorized in the preventive vaccines are made from strains of HPV, human papillomavirus, so which usually causes more of anal, throat, vaginal, or cervical cancers. So in those categories, if the preventive vaccine helps in that vaccinating certain children or adults against HPV, so in future the risks is very less and it helps protect them. So another infectious disease is the hepatitis B, which is also which can turn into liver cancer. So by getting this vaccine, that's why we usually inject this vaccine early in term, so that it can help the body develop some certain antibodies and antigen against it, and it kind of saves the whole immune system by developing certain vaccines against this hepatitis B virus. So if we go on to the next slide. So this is the therapeutic vaccine. These are the therapeutic vaccination against cancer-associated antigens represent an attractive option for cancer therapy in view of the comparatively low toxicity and the excellent safety profile of this treatment. So how this differentiates from the preventive vaccine is that this is used for cancers that have been arised in the body already. So it signals, instead of preventing it, it kind of signals the immune system to target those viruses or those foreign cells that are main cause of the cancer. So it's more an antigen based compared to the preventive. And also it has a few benefits as that it has low toxicity and it's more safer compared to those. So if we go on to the next slide, these are few vaccines that have been found and made and recognized. So the first being the Provenge, which is a drug, basically a drug vaccine, which is used to treat advanced prostate cancer that is no longer helped by, prevention or hormonal therapy. It also has its side effects, which can be mild and more can develop more into major symptoms such as fever, chills, fatigue, and headache. So there's another one which is called TVAC. Vaccine is morely used for melanoma, advanced melanoma skin tumors or cancers. So it's made from herpes virus that can be altered in a lab, which kind of produce a more synthetic option, which is called a cytokine. So what it does, the cytokine helps, again, it regulates the immune system. It tells the immune system that there's a foreign body cell in the body, and we have to target that. So it also has its side effects. There could be more like flu-like symptoms with this one. If we go ahead, so this is basically a summarization of how cancer vaccines work. So cancer vaccines involve usually exogenous administration of certain antigens combined with the adjuvants that I mentioned before that go ahead and activate the dendritic cells, and which kind of that's where they start working by targeting specific tumor cells. So if we go further ahead, I am mentioning again, as opposed to the traditional preventive vaccines, where antigens are carefully selected, purified, and then injected to the patients. Over here, it's more of a direct approach where the vaccine attacks the cells and gives its function. So if we go on to the next slide. This is basically the continuation of how the vaccine works. So these are like the principles and how the several methods, how we can do and how can we proceed with it. So the basic principles being that there has to be a successful therapeutic vaccination among tumors and the delivery of the large high quality antigen to the dendritic cells. So basically, it all depends on how we carefully select our antigen, how it affects the dendritic cells. From there, how it goes on and proceeds to modify its effect. So if we go on to the next slide. So these are more recent discoveries of the cancer vaccines, with two being, the first being a DNA vaccine and the second being an RNA vaccine. So what are DNA vaccines? So they're carry built in, they act like adjuvants, which acts on the DNA of the person's body, of the human DNA, where it's more successful in processing the antigen by inducting T cells and T cell responses, again, a kind of preparing the immune system of the whole foreign cells. So if we go on to the RNA vaccines, they are like DNA vaccines, but RNA vaccines are more relatively straightforward in a sense that they do act as adjuvants, but they don't require any transcription on the major histocompatibility molecules like the DNA vaccines. But they mostly like go ahead straightforward. They act on the protein antigen, which expresses and then it follows up with its function and how it presents itself to the MHC molecules. If we go on to the next slide. So the vaccine's efficacy. So this is just basically explaining how the vaccine affects how its efficacy works. Again, with every vaccine, with every cancer, every vaccine is going to have a different efficacy. It's not going to be same for every individual. It depends on the extent and the invasiveness of the cancer. So if we go, okay, so it can this is the next slide, side effects. So again, the side effects may also vary from cancer to cancer, from vaccine to vaccine, depending on what cells it's targeting, the influence, and every individual is different. So some common side effects that may occur for most of them are anorexia, back pain, chill, flu-like symptoms, headache, joint ache, myalgia, nausea, and neuralgia. If you go on to the next slide. So combination therapy. This is a new subject matter, so this is used for in case of advanced tumors where more resistant to inhibitor check immune system ICI, or they're more invasive or advanced. So for this, it involves two phases, where the first phase involves tumor debulking with surgery or chemotherapy or radiotherapy, which means that after removing the tumor, treating the tumor, it's more invasive in its approach that it's kind of removed from the surgery. And once this is done, the combination therapy involves a second phase that involves where the vaccination plays a part, where it comes and reduces the number of cancer cells that are remaining, so there can be less chances of remission. So if we go on to the next slide. So yeah, so this is basically a conclusion of what I presented earlier, that the mode of the delivery of the antigen vaccines is a very important key role on telling how successful the vaccine can be. They can be delivered in the form of peptide, mRNA, DNA vaccines, and also the timing and dosing needs to be very carefully manipulated, and how that's going to ensure success and outcome for every cancer in patient. That's it.